Welcome to another episode of Trial Site News. On today's show, we're going to be looking into the AAPS, otherwise known as the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, and their filed motion to the Federal District Court in Galveston. A move to allow a lawsuit against the FDA for its alleged misleading statements against the drug Ivermectin here in the age of COVID-19. So we're going to talk about what happened here. And so, from Trial Site News, I am Adrian, and our episode is starting right now. So, the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons filed its motion and amicus brief Thursday evening with the Federal District Court in Galveston, urging it to allow the lawsuit to proceed against the FDA for its misleading statements against Ivermectin. In Apter versus HHS, a group of physicians sued to hold the Food and Drug Administration, a federal agency within the Department of Health and Human Services, accountable for its interference with physicians' ability to treat COVID-19. Branded as a politically conservative organization, mainstream media during the pandemic has alleged that this physician organization, the AAPS, has promoted conspiracy theories. Of course, one of the topics of contention is ivermectin itself, which has become a highly politicized drug, whether it works or not in treating the pandemic virus. Prior to the pandemic, for example, here in the US, physicians had the right to prescribe off-label regimens if they disclosed the risks to their patients. However, in the age of the pandemic hysteria, and along with marching orders from the government to mandate mass vaccination programs, this traditional physician rights seems to be thrown out the window. You see, since the era of the COVID-19 pandemic, doctors were no longer free to just work with patients based on what they assessed was best for them. With a major overreach of the federal government and corresponding umbrella licensing board associations, such as the Federation of State Medical Boards, the federal government has inserted itself, carefully, not directly, into the affairs of doctors during the pandemic. Now, in this episode of Trial Site News, we won't be focusing on the arguments for or against the use of the drug in relation to the pandemic virus. That's not the point of this video. After all, during the pandemic, we here at Trial Site News have long been chronicling many material studies and significant real-world use on its fight against the virus. For example, the Uttar Pradesh Public Health Initiative is one that this media, Trial Site News, tracked closely during the spring of 2021 and was most certainly noteworthy. Even the World Health Organization covered and praised its efforts. However, the WHO has since made it clear that while dozens of mostly low and middle-income countries, or LMICs, have authorized the use of ivermectin during at least some part of the pandemic, and with 92 human studies involving ivermectin, again, mostly in low to middle-income countries, that appear to show some evidence that the drug may in fact help against SARS-CoV-2, the World Health Organization disagrees. And not just them, but along with many other apex regulators, research institutes, and medical establishments in first world countries. They are questioning these studies with positive results. For example, they are saying that perhaps many of these 92 studies were badly designed. That's an example. And they also focus on a few high-profile studies with no efficacious results. For example, you have the Together trial that showed no positive results from ivermectin, COVID Out, Lopez Medina, and Active 6. The WHO, as of its most recent update on the matter, has stated that the, quote, current evidence on the use of ivermectin is to treat COVID-19 patients is inconclusive. Until more data is available, the WHO recommends that the drug only be used within clinical trials. In any case, moving forward, there has been an ever-increasing pressure for doctors to not even consider the drug for use against the virus, even going so far as threatening doctors with losing their license for discussing the drug, since it can fall under the misinformation category. This, of course, is just another form of censorship. An example of this would be the FDA, which most certainly crossed the line when elements within the agency went on a campaign to classify the drug as animal, even though it's human and animal. And they went to war against ivermectin and its use not long after we here at Trial Site News reported that prescriptions went from 3,000 per week prior to the pandemic to nearly 90,000 per week here in the USA during one point in 2021. It is also worth noting that the FDA secures about 40% of its budget from pharma fees, and there have been accusations that suggest that Merck, Pfizer, and other commercial sponsors have sought to keep the lucrative SARS-CoV-2 antiviral market for themselves. There's too much money at stake. For example, the new Pfizer drug Paxlovid, according to estimates, will bring in somewhere between $22 and $24 billion in 2022 alone. Imagine that, a new antiviral drug just in time to make billions of dollars. Nothing to see here. Now let's go back to the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons. In this recently announced amicus brief to the court, the conservative group is claiming that the defendant FDA has improperly exploited misunderstandings about the legality and prevalence of off-label uses of medication in order to mislead courts, state medical boards, and the public into thinking that there is anything improper about off-label prescribing. They went on to say that not only is off-label prescribing fully proper, legal, and commonplace, but it is absolutely necessary in order to give effective care to patients. And yet, the accusation goes, the FDA published multiple statements and sent letters to influential organizations to falsely disparage ivermectin, implying that it was not approved for treating COVID-19. Many, including courts and state medical boards, were misled, this according to the accusation, by the FDA into thinking that its lack of approval for this treatment meant that ivermectin should not be used to treat COVID-19. Improper and immoral interference in their arguments to the court, the AAPS has said that it has never been proper for the FDA to interfere with that essential part of the practice of medicine, and the FDA knows it, and that, quote, the FDA insisted and continues to insist on interfering with the prescription of this safe medication by physicians in treating COVID-19. The AAPS General Counsel Andrew Schlafly pointed out to the court that the FDA has engaged in a campaign of interference with the proper use by physicians of ivermectin, which has long been approved as fully safe for human use. He pointed out to the court that once the FDA approves a medication as safe, then physicians have full authority to prescribe it to treat any illness, even on such as a novel virus like COVID-19. Now, of course, it remains to be seen what happens next in this ongoing saga. And of course, we here at Trial Site News will continue to cover this instance, both here and, of course, on TrialSiteNews.com, where you can find constant updates on this, the pandemic, and new and upcoming treatments and drugs from around the world. And that, my friends, will bring our episode to a close once more. From Trial Site News, I am Adrian, and I will see you all next time.